Welcome to the Explainer. We're going to completely skip the pleasantries today, because we've got to throw ourselves straight into an absolute anomaly of a matchup. Saudi Arabia won, Uruguay won. Now you look at that on paper, and sure, it looks like just a draw. But actually, scratch that. If you really look closely at the tactical data and the sheer momentum swings from this World Cup clash, there is no way this was just a draw. It's a story of absolute defiance, immense tactical tension, and a resilient underdog literally refusing to crack under historic pressure.
Okay, let's dive into this. 67. That is the staggering percentage of possession Uruguay held in this match. They had the ball, they dictated the tempo, and they absolutely camped out in the Saudi half. I mean, for almost the entire 90 minutes, Uruguay was essentially the only team playing with the ball at their feet, dictating every single blade of grass.
And then, well, we have this massive number, 22. That's the number of shots Uruguay took in the second half alone. Not the whole game, just the second half. This wasn't just a football match, guys. This was a barrage. And yet somehow, they almost lost. Like, how does a team hold 67% of the ball, take 22 shots in a single half, and walk away with only a single point? It's crazy.
To understand the sheer panic radiating from the Uruguayan side during this specific match, we first have to look at the macro view. Section 1. South America in crisis. The CONMEBOL struggle in 2026.
Just take a look at the opening results for these nations. Brazil, they drew their opener. Ecuador lost. Uruguay, as we now know, drew. Argentina hasn't even played yet. What we are looking at here is a shocking continent-wide reality. The CONMEBOL nations, teams from a region that has historically produced more World Cup winners than anyone else, haven't held a single lead yet in this 2026 competition. The absolute giants of South American football are just stumbling right out of the gate.
So the crucial point is this: it's staggering. This is the worst start to a World Cup tournament for CONMEBOL since 1974. 50 years. That is half a century of historical weight pressing down on these players' shoulders. For Uruguay, a two-time World Cup champion, they weren't just playing Saudi Arabia out there. They were fighting against a massive, incredibly uncharacteristic slump for their entire continent. Now, let's look at how that immense pressure actually manifested on the pitch during the first half. Section 2, the Saudi sucker punch, efficiency against the run of play. And this brilliantly illustrates the two parallel tracks of that opening half. On one hand, you have Marcelo Bielsa's Uruguay. They started out completely in control. They held 60% possession in the opening 35 minutes alone. They were relentlessly knocking on the door, but their attacks were, well, blunt. Just a bunch of unfinished chances against a highly resolute Saudi defensive block. But on the other hand, you see Saudi Arabia's surgical efficiency. One chance, one goal. Let's break down exactly how this shock 1-0 halftime lead actually happened, because it's wild. First, Saudi goalkeeper Mohammed Al-Owais sets this defiant tone right away by pushing off a powerful early drive from Uruguay's Araujo. Then, entirely against the run of play, veteran Uruguayan goalkeeper Fernando Muslera can only parry a header from Mohamed Cano. The rebound falls absolutely perfectly to Al-Amri, who reacts the quickest to score. Now, what you really should take away from this is how incredibly rare this moment was. This goal ended a staggering 42-game goal drought for the Saudi national team. Seriously, 42 games. In fact, it was Al-Amri's first international goal since a friendly against Kuwait all the way back in March 2021. Just a completely unexpected hero stepping up to stun a two-time World Cup champion. Moving into the second half, the desperation of the Uruguayan side completely fractured the atmosphere. Section 3, the second half siege, Uruguay's historic barrage.
Look, Marcelo Bielsa is not a manager who just waits around when his team is trailing. At halftime, his reaction was frantic. It was immediate. First, he boldly withdrew star forward Darwin Núñez, who had just wasted a golden chance right before the break. Then, Bielsa brings on Antonio Sanabria and Agustín Canabio in this super aggressive double substitution. This tactical shift completely transformed Uruguay's attacking shape. They went from just knocking on the door to, frankly, trying to kick the entire building down.
Which brings us right back to that staggering number we saw at the start. Uruguay finished this match with 67% overall possession, compared to Saudi Arabia's 33%. What makes this truly remarkable is that this 67% is Uruguay's highest recorded possession tally in a FIFA World Cup match since records began in 1966. They had more of the ball than literally any Uruguayan team in modern World Cup history. Let that sink in.
And with all that historic possession, they unleashed an overwhelming, just punishing volume of attacks, 22 second-half shots. To put that into perspective, this equals the most shots by any team in a FIFA World Cup half since East Germany attempted 24 against Chile way back in 1974. We are looking at a literal statistical anomaly that hasn't been seen in 50 years of World Cup football. It was a relentless, totally suffocating siege on the Saudi defense. But standing directly in the path of that 50-year statistical anomaly was one man who simply refused to be beaten. Section 4. The Al-Owais Masterclass. Survival in the Miami Heat.
This wasn't just offending anymore, it was grueling physical survival. Just follow the timeline of this second half with me. 60 minutes in, Manuel Ugarte hits the post from distance with Al-Owais completely beaten. But wave after wave just keeps crashing. At 80 minutes, the levee finally breaks. Araujo steers home an equalizer from close range after Vinha's header is saved by Al-Owais and the rebound falls perfectly. So it's 1-1. But Uruguay desperately wants the win. 85 minutes, substitute Brian Rodriguez curls an effort just wide. And then deep in stoppage time, 90-plus minutes, with the Saudi team utterly exhausted in the punishing, incredibly human Miami Heat, Al-Owais pulls off absolutely incredible double saves, denying Nicolas de la Cruz and Federico Valverde. Again and again, he just shut the door.
Let's move to and see how this builds into the wider context of the tournament. Section 5, Implications for Group H, a draw that feels like a defeat.
Check out the standings in this group. Because Spain had an earlier stalemate with Cape Verde, literally every single team is sitting on exactly 1 point. For Saudi Arabia, this hard-fought point is a massive victory to be celebrated. It proves their defensive resilience and completely blows Group H wide open after matchday 1. But for Uruguay, with the highest possession in their entire history and the most shots in half a century, this draw should absolutely feel like 2 points severely dropped.
Which leaves us with this ultimate question. When a team has 67% possession and takes 22 shots in a single half, is this just a story of a brilliant goalkeeping masterclass by Al-Owais, or does this expose a fatal finishing problem for Uruguay? Because against better opponents, if you have that much of the ball and that many chances but still can't secure the win, well, that problem becomes terminal. Think about that as you watch their next match. Thank you so much for joining me for this explainer. Keep learning, and I'll catch you next time.